thank you all for coming to our presentation. We didn't finish last week, but it's a good presentation, so I did want to finish it up. So announcements, as always, we have a hackathon at Marston, Saturday at noon. I believe it's in Darwin. No meeting next week because it's Thanksgiving. Our next meeting will be the 29th in 2 weeks. It will likely be on debugging. And then the week after that will be lightning talks and elections. We will explain that after the presentation on how that will work. So just our agenda, I'm gonna go for objects, classes, and TypeScript. And then once again, we'll explain lightning talks and elections afterwards. So where we left off was my incredible node package. Just wanted to share an alternative to NPM, which is Yarn. So Yarn is something that I actually use very commonly. It's so like any NPM package that you can install, you can also install with Yarn. Yarn, it's more suited for mono repos that have like multiple workspaces. So if you have like a repository that has like both the web app and the mobile app, it's almost like it has two different projects. So Yarn is just good for managing that. And also Node.js is not the only runtime for JavaScript. There's also Dino and Bun. Dino focuses on being a lot more secure. Bun focuses on being really fast. They're relatively new, so I imagine they'll gain popularity later on. Like I think Bun came out this year, so it's really new. And objects. Hey, what's up? Okay, objects. So you can create objects in JavaScript without creating a class. You can almost think of it like a dictionary. It's like a set of keys and values. So here's an example. You can like okay. So you can map a key to just any primitive JavaScript type, whether that's a number, whether it's a string, and here or you can map it to an array. And we also have JSON. So JSON is short for JavaScript Object Notation. It's just a human readable notation for writing data. It's a subset of JavaScript. And it's actually kind of independent of JavaScript. Like other languages like Python actually have support for encoding and decoding JSON just because it's a really common format of showing data. So once again, it's just like a string key that's mapped to any of one of these values, a number, string, Boolean, array, or it can be another object. So it can get really nested if you keep having values that are just other objects. And JSON is a bit more limited because you can't actually define variables or call functions. So let me show this example here. So this here is valid JavaScript. So this is just like dummy data that I'm actually using for my senior project. It's just like dummy profiles. Although if we wanted to have this in just pure JSON, then it would be the same thing, but just like in this format. Yeah, I mean, my entire senior project is just like Saul Goodman themed, but yeah. Yeah, so JSON, you can just import it in other files and just use it as an object. A database that basically uses JSON is MongoDB. It's a NoSQL database. And like the thing is, it doesn't, like at the very low level, it actually uses BSON, which is binary JSON, because JSON is like very slow to traverse. But for all intents and purposes, you can consider it a JSON database because you feed it JSON and it gives you back JSON. So that also makes it really convenient because like you only need to use one language. You don't need to switch to using some other weird language like SQL or X++ to query stuff. So objects in JavaScript can also be really unsafe. JavaScript being an untyped dynamic language, you can just reference attributes that don't exist. like if we have the empty object, just object, and then we try to print object.price, it just like it'll run. It'll just return undefined, which can be kind of difficult to debug if you don't have good error handling. So that can be really annoying. If you want to have a more structured object, then you would use more traditional object-oriented programming with classes. So you can have just regular classes, very similar to what you would see in just regular Java. You define a constructor. I have another example here. So it's, yeah, I have this class user store. Get is a keyword in JavaScript. It's just a getter, and it doesn't just have to be a getter for class attributes. You can get more modified data like full name. All it does is append the first name and the last name. So it's really easy. Oh, do you have a question?
Yeah, well, like why get? Like, why not just make a method that just returns that? And that'd be it.
Yeah, you could do that. You could do like get full name. And
well, yeah. Like, what's the point of get?
it's a good question. Does anyone know the answer to that? I don't know. Oh, it's because I don't know. It probably has to do with like public and private. Honestly, I like never use classes in JavaScript. Like the only time I've ever written a class in JavaScript was like for a coding interview. So it's like not super common, but
That's fair.
yeah. What was I gonna say? But something that that I did recently do is I just have this example here. Yeah, so I have user store, and in like an example of a situation where you would use classes is for a data store in a large JavaScript application. So for example, in this case, I instantiate our user store class. I pass in the data. Our user has an ID of 1. His name is Saul Goodman, and he's in Albuquerque. So we just export this, and then we can import it into any other file. So it's almost like this data that we can import. And in that sense, it's kind of like data in a global context, but not really. We can just import it, and it's like super useful. So this is just like a really dumbed down version of a task that I actually did at work. It was just like I just had to like print a welcome message on the screen. Yeah, so let me run that. Oh, okay, that didn't work. I don't know. Okay, it did work 5 seconds ago, but yeah. All right. And also, if you're working with React components from 2015, then those would also use classes, but you shouldn't be doing that anymore. Okay, let's move on to TypeScript, which is the better script. So why does TypeScript exist? Well, errors in JavaScript can be really, really annoying. Like you can really do anything in JavaScript and it won't throw an error. It'll just give you like really weird results. Like in this case, you can like in JavaScript, all parameters are technically optional. If you just forget to pass something in, the parameter will just be undefined. So if you like forget to pass in the parameters, which sounds weird, like how could you forget? But it does happen, especially if you're working with like React components. Yeah.
Okay, two things. First off, because of what you just said, I assume JavaScript doesn't support overloading like other object-oriented programming languages.
I believe it does.
It does.
I don't know. Okay, I don't know. I can check right now.
No, not in that sense. So it would just be like you could get similar behavior by checking whether it was undefined or not.
Okay. Okay. So I guess it's sort of like Python in that respect.
I don't know that, but you can only have one function of one name.
Okay. Does JavaScript support default parameters? Well, I mean default arguments.
Yes.
It does.
It does, yeah. So
Okay.
like default arguments is just like that.
Okay.
So if you forget to pass it in, then it's just 1.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you add undefined and undefined, then it's NaN, which is not a number. So it's just like a nonsensical value. I showed another example like this. You can just reference values that don't exist and it'll return undefined, really difficult. And then you can just do like pure nonsense like this. You can add empty array, an empty array. What does it give you? Empty string, which I don't know. Like intuition might suggest that it should be empty array, but it's actually empty string. And then if you add empty array and empty object, it gives you 0. And then if you do the same operation but reverse, it's not a number, which actually tells you that addition is not commutative in JavaScript, which just sounds like really stupid. JavaScript is just like, fuck the commutative property of addition. Like, we don't need that. So like literally, why is JavaScript like this? So like JavaScript was invented for like, it's a client-side scripting language. Like it was meant to run on browsers. It wasn't originally intended to run on like servers, like how it does today. And so you don't necessarily want it to just crash and burn like C++ does every time it runs into a tiny issue. You want it to, I guess, I don't know, just keep running and just keep doing its own thing. So I guess it's like useful in that sense, but sometimes you want a more structured development environment where you can catch errors before your code runs. So that's where TypeScript comes in, because types actually do matter. All of the weird examples that we just showed, like you can't actually do in TypeScript. You can't just add empty array and empty object. And you actually need to like define attributes before referencing them and define the types of properties. So what exactly is TypeScript? Well, it's a syntactical superset of JavaScript, and it just adds optional typing to the language, and it actually transpiles to JavaScript. So what I mean by transpile is if you run it, like TypeScript doesn't really run, like it'll just compile to JavaScript. Although don't try to look at what it transpiles to, because it's just really weird looking JavaScript. Like you're not going to understand it. So typically if you're working with a TypeScript language, you'll have a configuration file called tsconfig. And here you can have more specific flags that you might want to work with. Like if you want to be like super strict, then you can specify like no implicit any. Like you can't have any variable where the type is any. And I just realized that I haven't explained what any is. Okay, here it is. Perfect transition. Okay, so like in TypeScript, any is a type, and that it is what it sounds like. If you have a parameter of type A and it's any, you can pass anything into there. It's just useful in some cases, but don't overuse it, because if every variable is of type any, then you're getting 0 benefit out of using TypeScript. You're just working with like uglier JavaScript. So yeah, don't use it. All right. Yeah, another thing that's really useful is you can just define new types. Yeah, so you can have like a type profile, and you can say that the name has to be a string, the age is a number, and like the phone, maybe we want it to be either a string or a number. That's something that's really useful. You can have variables that can be of multiple possible types. And then the question mark here just means like this attribute here is optional. Like if we have a user and we don't know their address, then it'll just be undefined.
What is the difference between this and an interface?
It's a good question. Here we're just defining a type. Okay, I will actually get to interfaces. I have a really good example that'll show this off, but this is neither a class nor an interface. It's just a type, which I will explain the difference. I don't know, here it is. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so here we have an interface of type video game. It has one attribute, genre, of type string. Here's a question. Does the value Wizard 101 implement the interface? I mean, no, I need to phrase this correctly. Is the variable wizard 101 of type video game?
Yes.
Yes, it is. Okay, so the variable does not instantiate video game because just like in other languages, you can't instantiate interfaces. However, the variable implements video game, so you can actually pass it into methods that expect a value of type video game. I have an example here. So here we have so we have the same variable here, and we can pass it in this function that expects a variable of type video game. And here we have another example. Like this is like another object that has the attribute genre, but it also has an extra attribute. So we can't actually say that it's of type video game, but regardless, we can still pass it in this method that expects a value of type video game, because all TypeScript does is check that this variable has all of these values, and it does. So it's just kind of a gray area. Like it doesn't instantiate video game, but it implements video game, which just sounds like really dumb, but I don't know. It's just how it works.
Well, I think that's what why it's like structural typing, that and not nominal typing. I don't know. I don't
Okay.
know.
Yeah, that's a thing I don't know about.
Well, like structural typing is where whether or not something is a type is just based on its structure, like what sort of things it has.
True. Yeah, that's basically how JavaScript works. Yeah. Yeah, also enums are a thing in TypeScript. Like you can actually emulate enums in JavaScript with just like mapping strings to the same string, but it's just not really safe because as you can just make like a capitalization error and it'll just return undefined, so it's not that useful. Yeah, so we've seen TypeScript is like a lot more useful, but it still inherits a lot of issues that JavaScript has. And I want to show that off with an example. So I challenge you all to make a function that takes in a string and tells if it's a number, which sounds really easy, but I just think this is a funny example. There's actually a website called typescriptlang.org/play where you can run TypeScript. Yeah.
Are we allowed to use it as an function?
Sure.
What? Yeah.
Wait, what is it?
It is not a number function.
Oh yeah, use that. Sure.
I can look about that first.
All right. Okay. Does anyone have any like hunch as to how you would do this? Okay, never mind. Yeah, Michael.
I'm not super familiar with JavaScript, like I've only written a very small amount, but like I'm thinking you could maybe try to like, can you typecast in JavaScript?
You can, yeah.
Okay, so like try to cast it to a number, and if you get undefined, then it's not a number, and if you get something back, it is a number.
True, yeah. Okay, so how would you do this in Python? So there's this incredible function called isNumeric. Really easy, like we did it, guys. It's, so easy. So what is the equivalent in JavaScript? Is not a number. Which is weird. Yeah, it's like how do we use this? Like, just does anyone have any idea of how you would use this in TypeScript to tell if a string is a number? There's like one answer to this. Yeah. Yeah, you just do like is not a number. No, you do. Not is not a number. that is your answer. Not is not a number, except why does that not work? Not is not a number, only takes in a parameter of type number. Which is like just sounds so dumb. It's like what is the point? Like, why am I asking if a number is not a number? Like,
Suppose another question. Does anyone actually know what isNam does?
Huh?
It's not a number.
Specifically not a number.
Isn't literally nan a number? Isn't literally nan a number,
Yes.
even though it's
Right.
not a number?
So is nan, this is literally checking to see if it's like a floating point, not a number, right? Like, so nan is a specific double, or floating point value that refers to things being not a number, right? And so it's specifically to check for that because nan is not equal to itself.
Yeah, this is where JavaScript gets weird. There is an object, NaN, which programmatically it's of type number, but mathematically it's saying like this is not a number, which is like so
That's
it,
not JavaScript's fault. That existed way before JavaScript.
Yeah, I never realized how weird that is.
it's just really stupid. So how do we do this? So Michael had the right idea. You do try to typecast this. So we do like const n equals number, and then we pass in our parameter. And if this is like, I don't know, the word Eric, then Eric is not a number. So this will be NaN. So that is our answer. Like it's, I just thought this was a funny example because it's just so like roundabout logic. It's like you have to typecast it to a number and then ask if this number is not a number. So yeah.
Would it be any safer to just like okay, I guess first question is does JavaScript have like an is digit method? Like if you have a character literal but it's a number digit, does it have a method that can check that? Or can you like access ASCII values yourself?
Just use regular expressions.
Yeah, I guess you could use regular expressions. Yeah, that's your other solution.
So, because I was gonna say maybe you could just like check every character of the string, and if you see anything that's not a digit, just immediately return false.
Yeah.
Yeah, rejects what I recommend.
Yeah, so like, why does this function is not a number even exist? Because in JavaScript, not a number is not equal to not a number. That is why this function exists. Like
That's true in any language, though. That's true in Java, it's true in C.
is not a number a thing in Java?
It's anything that's IEEE.
Yeah, exactly what he said, right? See, this guy gets it.
I know that number.
So,
Yeah.
But it's like it's standard for floating point. So it's how it's defined.
Yeah, I just had another quick example. Okay. Oops, didn't mean to.
Oh no.
Yeah, I hope this is big enough. Okay. Does anyone know how to freaking count? Okay. This question is for you. So what happens when you sort this array? Yeah, what do you get?
You get 10,000 to 6,009.
That is correct, Jonas, because in JavaScript, 10,000 is less than 2 when you're sorting an array, because like TypeScript will convert everything here to a string for no reason. So any number that has 1 as the leftmost digit is less than like every other number except for 0. And that's just the way it works. So literally to sort an array in TypeScript, you need to define your own sorting function, which isn't hard, but it's just like stupid that you need to do that. So yeah. All right, this is one of the last things. So environment variables. All right. Okay, but first, does anyone have any idea which Pokemon this is? I don't know.
Well, is there a Pokemon that's like round and like egg-shaped and yellow?
Wait, Eric, I know what Pokemon it is.
What? Okay, yeah, it's Pikachu with his limbs cut off. That's the answer. All right, environment variables. All right, these are actually environment variables that we use in Ranger and I senior project. Don't screenshot this. But yeah, it's like environment variables is just like any data that you want your project to have, but you don't want anyone else to publicly access it. And so an example of this is like any API key. So for example, if anyone gets a hold of, did you have a question?
No, I just want to point out that you're recording this and you're gonna put that recording on YouTube at some point later on. So I would.
Yeah, you're like gonna put this on YouTube.
Okay, these I modified. Like our actual API keys are like way longer than this, but this actually is an environment variable in Ranger Nice project. Kid named Finger. I didn't name it, surprisingly. But yeah. So like it's just like an example of an environment variable is just like your Google Cloud API key. If someone gets a hold of your Google Cloud API key, then like, disable it, because they could just rack like thousands of dollars on your monthly bill by like mining Bitcoin. And obviously you don't want that because you're not going to get refunded. So yeah. Yeah, I have.
That happened to a kid in our enterprise engineering class. We had to make AWS accounts for one of the assignments, and like someone racked up this thing all the way up.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
they said they like refunded it though, and gave him just like put 2FA on his account.
Dang, it's crazy. Yeah, so I actually have a small example of how you would use environment variables. Yeah, so this is just like a really basic React app. All it does is I have this running actually. Local host 3000. Why? Do I need to put like HTTPS?
So I checked, for sorting numbers, what you would normally do is actually you'd pass in a callback function into the
Okay.
sort.
You would what?
You'd actually pass a comparison function into the sort method.
Yeah, so
and
that's
how you would sort.
that's what I meant by like you need to define your own sorting algorithm.
Okay. Okay. For some reason, I thought you meant like actually like do like merge sort or like a quick sort algorithm, but no, you just need like a comparison function.
No,
You
that
can do it on something, but it's not too bad.
Yeah, you can just do that with it.
yeah. All right. This is the really basic React app that I made. All it does is like there's like a video here. Where does it get this? The link for the video? It's an environment variable. So you reference environment variables in JavaScript with process.env dot the name of the environment variable. And this is a React thing. In React, your environment variables have to start with React app, which is kind of annoying. But yeah, I have it defined here. This is our video. It's just like a 5-year-old video of President Fox that like my brother showed me when he went to okay, yeah, it gets really weird. Yeah, it's just like so random. Like and here he just like eats like a bunch of cinnamon like for no reason. So yeah. All right. So obviously this is like top secret information. So I don't want to embed this link in the actual source code. I have it defined in this .env file. And I don't push this to GitHub because I put it in my .gitignore. So you actually have to manually add .env to your gitignore so that your environment variables aren't pushed to GitHub. But then I actually deployed this to AWS Amplify. So all AWS Amplify does is it gets like weird. Okay, it gets my GitHub repository and it builds it and it just runs the build files. But my environment variables are not on GitHub. So how do I let GitHub know what the environment variables are? Well, there like any deployment tool will have like a little section for environment variables. So here I define it. This is just the same link. So let me run this deployment. All right. All right, here we go. Yeah, it's just like a different link, but yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah. All right. Cool stuff. Oh yeah. Just had another neat little thing to show here. So the reason I have an exclamation mark here is because like JavaScript is telling me like, oh, what if this environment variable doesn't exist? Like if it does exist, then it's a string, obviously, but if you just forgot to define it in your file, then it will be undefined. And in TypeScript, an exclamation mark is basically like a pinky promise that like, yes, this variable will exist. It won't be null or undefined. Which I don't know, it's kind of weird because like you can actually break this pinky promise and TypeScript will just like throw an error probably. But yeah, so it is actually pretty useful. So like if we got rid of this, then yeah, it would tell us like, yeah, like you can't you can't set this to a variable that's a string because it's possibly undefined. Yeah. All right. Any questions so far? Cool, we're all experts. All right. Yeah. So all right. So if you like testing, which you should, yeah. All right. Then Jest is a really common testing library for JavaScript. You can use it for like anything that you would for like any environment. Like you can use it for front end, for back end, and there's like extra plugins that you can add to Jest for more like specific types of projects. So there's like a plugin for React apps, and there's a plugin for like React native apps. So like I use Jest in like my React Native senior project. And then I don't know if we'll have time to completely cover this, but like JavaScript is a very data-driven language. And so something you would want to use are these functions map, filter, reduce. They're functions that help you do like really common operations and keep things more elegant instead of using like really verbose for loops. So an example I have here, let me just get rid of that.
Does Python have these?
Map, probably.
Map filter reduce.
So there's standard functional groups for like any sort of collection operations.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's really useful. Like, yeah, like you could have this array prices, and it's just like an array of numbers. And this actually will work. It won't do like any weird string shenanigans like with sort. So what this will do is prices.map. So map operates on an array, and for each item in the array, which we're naming price, we double it. So it just returns a new array where every number in here is doubled. The reason this is useful is it's used like extremely commonly in languages like React, because you could have an array of like, I don't know, like an array of restaurants. And if you want to show like a card for each restaurant, then you would use map for something like this. Yeah, so this is basically how you would do it in React. You would map each price to like a paragraph tag that all it does is just print the price. Yeah, so just something to consider, something that's really useful, because the alternative is just using like really ugly for loops. So there's actually a few different versions of JavaScript. It gets really confusing, honestly. So like, I won't go too in depth into it, but basically like ES Next is like beta JavaScript. Honestly, I wouldn't count on using features in ES Next because they're not widely supported in like a lot of browsers and modern interpreters. ECMAScript is basically like just current JavaScript. JSX and TSX is what React use. It's basically like normal JavaScript. You can set a variable, like HTML tags can be values. So you can set like, it's basically just what I did here. Like HTML is data. That's what JSX is, and TSX. All right. Suggestions for writing good job. Yeah.
Please go back.
Yeah.
The last one.
Okay. What? That's not a thing. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay, JS fuck is the thing that Param showed one day. It's just like JavaScript, but you're using like special encoding so that like your entire language is just written with like open and closed brackets and exclamation points and fucking plus signs. So like, so if you do like so if you do like console.log hello world, then this is what it looks like. All right, and you can actually run this. Let me just put in the console. And hello world. Yeah. Yeah, so don't submit any PRs with JS fuck. Okay. Yeah, so suggestions for writing with JavaScript, do not use JS fuck. Use something like ESLint. Which is just like, yes.
I actually do have a question. I think Param might have mentioned, can't you not decode JS fuck back to JavaScript?
You can.
Oh, you can? Okay, never mind that.
Yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, so ESLint is just like it's like a plugin. It's yeah, ESLint is like a plugin. It's like a node module that just lets it enforces more structured JavaScript. Like in JavaScript, semicolons are optional, like 99.9% of the time, but you can make it so that yes, like you actually do need to have semicolons, and tabs should be this amount of spaces, and you can set a bunch of rules so that your JavaScript doesn't look like a big piece of crap. It's really useful for like group projects most of the time. Yeah, and I always recommend using TypeScript. I recommend it because I know how to use it, but I mean, if you don't know how to use it, just freaking learn. I don't know. Like, yeah.
No, I was gonna say with the formatting thing, like ESLint, a good extension to use it is Prettier, which basically allows you like auto format the JavaScript with like the rules you do, and you can set it so that format's not saved, or it formats when you do run a commit, or whenever you want the command. There's a lot of ways you can like set it up.
Yeah, Prettier is like it's like a lot like ESLint, but like an upgrade basically. Isn't it just like an extension of ESLint?
Thanks.
Yeah, so it's just like very, very structured. It's for like if you're working for like a company or something. So it's not like super necessary, but yeah. JavaScript supports emojis, which is really great. This is actually a file name in my senior project. It's just like import star from forward password. Really useful stuff. I don't know why that's.
Wait, can you name a file with emojis?
Yes.
I never knew you could do that.
Yeah, like emojis are just like if you print out an emoji, it'll probably just be like 2 characters
Like-
or something.
It's like 2 or 3 UTF-8 characters.
Yeah, this is like, all right, this is like the last line, but yeah, okay. So what is the point of this? Like, why should you learn JavaScript? Like everyone just complains endlessly about it and says that it sucks. Well, here's the thing, JavaScript does suck, but it's also very powerful and it runs like freaking everywhere. So like web apps run JavaScript, such as Apple's website here. Desktop applications run JavaScript, like VS Code. Like VS Code doesn't run entirely on JavaScript, but it does use some JavaScript, and you can actually run JavaScript in the web. Browsers obviously use JavaScript. A lot of mobile apps use JavaScript just because of Facebook's React Native library. A lot of apps on the App Store use JavaScript to some extent, like Coinbase. Like you can find a list of apps that use React Native on their site. This presentation uses JavaScript because it runs on Google Slide and also Club Penguin. So, RIP.
Does WebGL use JavaScript?
I have no idea.
You write WebGL in JavaScript.
Huh?
Okay, you write WebGL code in JavaScript.
So
But
yeah.
WebGL doesn't use JavaScript. But
Wait, so what does it use?
So it's just like a JavaScript library.
yeah,
It's just a JavaScript library. So it would be like why isn't it written in JavaScript? Like how can you write it down?
the whole point of WebGL is hardware acceleration in the web browser.
web browser.
Like, yeah, you need 3D graphics in your website, right?
Yeah.
WebGL. But JavaScript is slow. You're not gonna get. Huh?
Is it WASM?
I don't know how it's implemented. Probably browsers implement it in a different way. But if you want like high performance 3D graphics, you need WebGL.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I know. I'm just thinking if it's not written in JavaScript, what is it written in?
No,
Okay, I can probably just look this up. What is WebGL written in? Here we go, guys.
Chrome is not written in JavaScript, right?
Okay, JavaScript and OpenGL shading language. There we go. OpenGL shading language is probably just like the low level stuff to get in contact with like your GPU.
Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. I guess that makes sense.
I love how browsers over the years have just gone from 4 or 5 document viewers to basically mini operating systems.
Yeah. Like other things that run with JavaScript are, like you said, operating systems like Chrome OS and Firefox OS used to be a thing. And also there's blockchains that support smart contracts written in JavaScript. Don't actually do that because JavaScript is very prone to errors. And if you realize you made a bug, it'll cost like thousands of dollars to redeploy it. So yeah, don't use JavaScript. All right. That was the end of my presentation. Yeah.
OS is not worth it.
What? No, Firefox OS is not. All right. Cool. Yeah. Now Ranger is going to talk about elections and lightning talks. Great stuff.
How can it's paralyzed?
Aaron, don't you see a small problem with your slide?
No.
Go to the meeting next week or else.
What?
Meeting next week, I'll put it to you in terms you can understand. Meeting next week is undefined.
Don't come next week.
Fall down.
Link is poison the
Verify your. Oh my God. Okay. Elections and lightning talks. So I'm gonna be graduating, so will Eric. So we'll have 2 spots open in officers, which will be filled in, maybe leading to other spots open. So in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 weeks will be this meeting where we have elections. Yeah, if you want to be an officer, we need at least 2 extras, assuming all the other officers are staying. It's a really good opportunity, not only to like actually do the work of being an officer, but like when you can meet all the other officers and like be friends and like come to all the meetings because you'll be pressured to, you know, then you like, it's a really good networking opportunity basically. And you'll learn a ton just from being part of it and like helping put together meetings and doing the stuff like that. So I've had a lot of fun with it, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't have stayed here for so long. So yeah, you don't need any particular experience. You just basically have to want to do it and like do the work that you have to do to keep the club going. So basically a passion for, you know, being part of it is all you really need. You don't need to be a master of computer science or anything like that. Yeah. So here's some responsibilities of the president. This is definitely the most intensive position. Yeah, you basically need to make sure that everything happens. And if something doesn't go right or something doesn't happen at all, it's your fault essentially. So not to say that you do all the work, but you make sure the work is getting done somehow. Okay, so most responsibility in this position. So that's mine, then I'll be leaving. Yep, involvement officer. This is Eric's position right now. So this is the next one that's directly opening up. So kind of you want to make this position is kind of vaguely defined in my opinion, but ensure members are staying active and engaged, gauge feedback, make sure people are having fun, try to help make the meetings interesting. Social events, you're probably going to be in charge of this. Yeah, things like that. This will be directly opening, and we're planning to do just a full re-election. So all the previous officers will participate as well. And so all of the positions will technically be up for grabs. So if some of the other previous officers become new officers in like these 2 positions, then the other positions will matter. So I'll show this as well. Yeah. Vice president.
Trevor right now. Basically help the president. Yeah. Pretty much all encompassing as well. Some similar to president, but you just help out. Yeah. Outreach officer, Michael. You're responsible for heading marketing efforts, making announcements. Yes. A lot of these positions are kind of vague because you're just expected to do like what relates to the subject. So, you know, the president will ask you to do something that's related to outreach, then you'll do it, that kind of thing. Yeah. Treasurer, this one you actually need to, you don't need to know a little bit beforehand, but you will need to learn a little bit. This is Jonas right now. There's a course online, like a UF course, I forget what it's called, but you'll have to take that and learn how to navigate certain things to manage our money. Yeah. Program officer, says Alex, not here, I don't think, no, yeah. So basically help out plan meetings and figure out what the content should be. You also are in charge of finding and scheduling the room for each meeting. You just have to like do it one time usually, except at the start of the semester. They can never get us a room for permanent. So there's like 4 meetings where it could be anything, but yeah, that's your duty there. Yeah, so if you are interested in running for any of these positions, all we ask you to do is send an email saying what positions you want to run for, and then like a short blurb of why you want to run and like what makes you a good person for this position and stuff. Yeah, you don't need to write like a whole essay, like at most 200 words. It's not like a really, really hard limit, but like we're not looking for too much here, just to show that you want it and you're willing to put in a little work. And then during the elections, you'll either like read this thing in front of everybody or you'll like prepare a speech. It could be the same as that or not. And we'll show your thing if you want us to. Yeah.
Not on April 12th.
Oh, yeah. Forgot to, that's not it. Yeah, I think that's right. That's December 6th. Yep.
What? What?
Dang it.
December.
All right.
We are Arbor
So-
in October.
Yeah, we'll remind you guys about this in the next couple meetings as well. But I think as far as I know, the deadline is just probably a couple days before the meeting. Probably the Sunday before the meeting will be the deadline to do this. But yeah, we'll keep you guys updated there. Lightning talks. So on that same day, basically everyone is invited to do a talk, a really mini talk on whatever they want to, like 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes if you have a lot to say. Literally anything you want. We've done a lot of cool things in the past. Trevor gave a lightning talk, but it was more of not as much of a talk. See. Yeah, so that's never gonna give you up. Lightning talk. Yeah. It doesn't have to be related to computer science, obviously. It can be whatever you want. I gave a talk on like credit cards last time or something like that.
That was lit too.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gonna be honest though, yeah, I remember saying at that meeting, that was the best credit card lecture I've ever been. The thing is, every credit card lecture I've gotten beforehand sucked.
Really?
Okay, yours was the only one that was actually good.
I'm so glad you think that. Thank you so much. Yeah, anyway, it can be about computer science, though. There's a lot of fun things that have been done with computer science talks.
You're also proud to know I did get a credit card after.
Really? Nice. Okay. Yeah, something fun. I'm trying. Okay. Yeah, web scraping with soup. Can't remember who gave that. Oh, it's Trevor, yeah. Yeah, web scraping. How to play the tuba, also Trevor. Why JavaScript is stupid and dumb, Eric. Why MATLAB is terrible and bad, Eric. Gulf languages, I think.
That was those computer engineer who had like.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I forget. Yeah.
I don't.
Hackathon personal projects. Yeah.
I can express why Python was given the lead set.
Yeah, so we have a couple already planned, but just let us know you want to do one and we'll put it in, basically. Yeah. These ones that will probably happen.
GitHub Copilot, that's a good.
Oh yeah. probably in December, we'll have SSD shirts. We're just kind of
Yeah.
thinking it might be December, but yeah.
At this
They're
point,
ordered.
Yeah, they're ordered, they're being made and shipped by the supplier right now, so.
Awesome.
we're on the way.
Made and shipped by supplier. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they.
Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly. No, you'll see the design when it comes out.
I hope it doesn't have Saul Goodman.
Here's the real end of the meeting.